15. I'm going to work backwards. Okay, so if you want, what you can do is have the class kind of go through each question. Take a minute, go through the question, and then check your answer. So let's start with the problem. Let's start with, it's 8x squared. Let's see, 8x squared minus 6x squared minus 10x squared. No, sorry, wrong problem. Number 10. Minus 6x squared minus 11x plus 15 all divided by 4x plus 3. This is dividing polynomials. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is take my 4x plus 3 and 4x plus 3. And in my dividend box, I'm going to be dividing by 8x squared minus 6x squared. Sorry, it's 8x cubed. Okay, minus 6x squared plus 11x plus 15. Alright, so I look at my 4x, and I figure, what do I have to multiply that by so that I get a at x cubed? I'm going to need to multiply it by 2 and an x squared. So when I multiply it, what I get is 8x to the third power plus 6x squared. Now I'm going to subtract the entire thing. That makes this a negative and this a negative. These cancel out, and what I'm left with is negative 12x squared. Negative 12x squared. And so now what I'm going to do is bring down my next term, plus 11x, and to get 4x to equal negative 12x squared, I'm going to have to multiply it by 3x, and what I'm left with is 12x squared. Actually, it's going to have to be a negative negative 3x. And now what I'm left with is, that's my cat pounding at the door. What I'm left with is negative 12x and negative 9x. But since I have to subtract the whole thing, what I'm going to do is add and add once I distribute. So what happens is my x's cancel out. What I'm left with is 20x. 20x. And I bring down my next term plus 15. So now I'm going to add plus 5. Because 5 times 4x makes 20x. And 5 times 3 is plus 15. I'm going to subtract the whole thing. Makes this negative. I'm going to put that in red because it's hard to see. That negative and that becomes negative. They both cancel out and I'm left with a 0. And so my answer here is 2x squared minus 3x plus 5. Okay. Pause the recording if you need to take notes. Alright, I'm going to go on to the next one. Number 14. Number 14, we're also dividing. This time, I'm dividing 8x to the 4th plus 6x to the 3rd minus 10x squared, all divided by 2x. So I just 8x to the 4th plus 6x to the 3rd minus 10x squared. Now, all divided by 2x squared, 2x squared. Alright, so I'm going to have to multiply the first term. Now notice there's only one term, so I'm going to do it term by term, by 4x squared. So what I have is 8x to the 4th power. I have a 0, I bring down the next term. 6x cubed. So I don't really need to write the 0. 2, I'm going to have to multiply it by plus 3x. What I end up with is 6x cubed, but I have to subtract that. So what I'm left with is 0, so I bring down my next term, which is 10x squared. I'm going to multiply 2x squared by plus 5. Oh, that was a negative 10x squared. So I'm going to have to multiply it by a negative 5. So what I get is negative 10x squared. And then, of course, I have to subtract the entire thing. So that turns that into a positive. And I'm left with a 0. Remember, if you are left with a remainder, you're going to take that remainder and put it over your divisor. But as it happens, we're not left with a remainder, so the quotient is 4x squared plus 3x minus 5. That's number 14. All right, number 13. Number 13. I guess I don't need to keep turning this off. Let's use a different color. How about a little pink or blue? All right. Anne can weed a garden in 4 hours. Okay. Sally can weed the garden in 6 hours. How long will it take them if they work together? So remember, we're doing job over time plus job over time is equal to, that's time, job over time. So Annie completes one job in 4 hours, plus Sally completes one job in 6 hours. Together, they can complete one job in an unknown amount of time. So now I'm going to have to clear my denominator by multiplying by 24x. And what I'm left with here would be a 6x. What I'm left with here would be plus 4x. What I'm left with here will be equals 24. So add them together, I get 10x equals 24. Divide both sides by 10. What's left is x equals 2 4/10, which reduces to 2 2/5. And that's 2 2/5 hours. Okay? It takes them together, it will take them 2 2/5 hours. Pause the recording and write any notes that you may need to record. Keep forgetting not to do that. All right, number 12. All right. Solution A is 10%. Actually, let me do this, 10%. I'm going to erase that and just let's do the box right away. Remember in my box, I've got amount times the percent is equal to a product. Okay. Remember, we add going up and down to get the mix. All right. So, and we multiply going across. It says solution A is a 10% alcohol. 10% would be 0 and 1/10. Solution B is a 60%. Okay. Together, how much of each is needed to make a 50-liter 30% alcohol? So the mix is going to be a 50-liter at 30%. So, okay, my percents, there's my cat. And I'm going to make that total is 50. Now, we don't know how many solution A is, so we'll call that X. And solution B, we'll call the total minus the add into X. And then I multiply across. I get 0 and 1/10 X. I get 0 and 6/10 times 50 minus X. And I get 0 and 3/10 times 50. All right, so there's my equation. 0 I don't know why. Oh, I see. Let's go. 0.1/10 X. I don't really need the parenthesis there. Okay, 0 and 1/10 X. Plus, remember we add going up and down. 0 and 6/10 times 50 minus X is equal to 0 and 3/10 times 50. All right, just a reminder that when you're doing the decimals, do the math. If you don't have a calculator, you're going to have to wait. I got to open that door for that cat. If you don't have a calculator, do the math. So if you don't have the calculator, make sure you get make sure that you do the math, actually multiply things out. Otherwise, use the calculator. All right, so here we go. I'm going to simplify, and now what I get is 0. I'm going to switch colors. 0 and 1/10 X plus, now remember that's a decimal, so let's do this. Okay, I get 0, I get 30, but it's one decimal digit. So it's actually going to stay 30. I'm just going to erase that extra 0. And then I get minus 0 and 6/10 x is equal to 0, 15, but I use 1 decimal digit, so it's just going to be 15. Okay? All right, now I simplify. I have decimals, so I'm going to clear my decimal, multiply everything by, looks like by 10. So what I get is x plus 300 minus 6x equals 150. Combine my like terms. X minus 6x makes negative 5x. I'm going to subtract 300 from both sides. What I'm left with is negative 5x is equal to negative 150. Divide both sides by negative 5. And what we're left with is x is equal to 30. So if x is 30, then the other one is 20. So answer is, nice and bright in blue, solution A is 30 liters. Sorry. And solution B is 20 liters. There's your answer. Pause the recording and take down any notes if you might need them. All right, this time we're going to do number 11. Number 11 is 12 over x minus 12 over x minus 1 equals negative 2. Now, I pre-did this practice test to make sure I wouldn't be messing up. And one of the things that I forgot as I was carrying down my steps, I forgot that negative 2. I kept it at 2, and so that's going to mess you up. Watch your negatives. All right, so I'm going to clear my denominator and multiply everything by x times x minus 1. And over here, I will end up with negative 2x times x minus 1. In this term, I'll be left with negative 12 times x. And in the first term, I'll be left with 12 times x minus 1. And now I can start to simplify. 12x minus 12 minus 12x equals 2x squared negative, see, that's where I forgot it before too, times plus positive 2x. Alright, combine my like terms. Notice these are going to negate each other. For this term, I'm going to have to add 12 to both sides. So what I'm left with is 0 equals negative 2x squared plus 2x plus 12. I'm going to divide out a negative 2. So negative 2 minus 2x. No, plus 2x. All right. I'm going to divide out a negative 2. And I'm going to do this one a little bit different. Okay, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So what I'm left with is x equals by negative 2. X equals x squared. Let me switch colors. 0 is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 6. I do my x marks the spot, multiplies to negative 6 and adds to negative, whoops, that was 1. All terms are equal. So remember, I'm dividing negative 2x by negative 2, 2x by negative 2, and 12 by negative 2. So what I am left with is this. So what multiplies to negative 6 and adds to negative 1? How about a negative 3 and a positive 2? So what I get is x minus 3 x minus 3 times x plus 2 is all equal to 0. So now I have to set them both equal to 0. So x, I'm going to take that over here. X is equal to positive 3 and x is equal to negative 2. Two possible answers. Pause the recording if you need to write these notes. All right, moving on. Number 10. Okay, I have 17 over y minus 1 over 6 is equal to 2 over 5. Remember, we have to come up with a common denominator and clear it. Multiply by 30y. In the first one, I'll be left with 6y times 2 is 12y. In the second one, I'll be left with a 5y. And the third term I'll be left with will be a 30 times 17. Okay? Now, I'm going to, when I multiply that out, I get 510. Just switch colors on you. Back to the blue, I get 510 minus 5y equals 12y. Combine my like terms, and I get equals 17y. When I divide both sides by 17, I find that y is equal to 30. Write that over here. Y equals 30. Okay? Take a minute, copy the notes if you need them, and then move on. Pause the recording if you need to wait. Number 10. Okay. I don't know why. Oh, that was number 10. Number 9. Actually do a number 9. Number 9. All right. 1 over y squared minus 4 times, I don't think I did this one earlier, y plus 3 all over y squared minus y, and then that's minus 2. All right, we got a little bit of factoring to do. And now, this time, do I clear my denominator? No, because there's no equal sign. It's not an equation. I can't solve for y. I have to just simplify. So step 1, we factor. Factor. I do 1 over y plus 2 times y minus 2 minus all over, let's multiply really quick. I'm going to do my x marks a spot. What multiplies to negative 2 and adds to negative 1. How about negative 2, positive 1? I get y plus 1 times y minus 2. And what we end up with, now I can see what I need to add to each fraction. Over here I'm missing a y plus 1, so I need to multiply both top numerator and denominator by y plus 1. Over here I'm missing a y plus 2, so I have to multiply both numerator and denominator by y plus 2. So now what we get is y plus 1 all over, the common denominator is y plus 1 times y plus 2 times y minus 2. And I write everything out in the numerator. Y plus 1 times 1, which I don't really need to write that because it's not going to do anything, minus y plus 3 times y plus 2. Now the top one, I'm going to switch back to blue. What I get is y plus 1. I'm going to factor this here. Okay, FOIL it. I don't know, double distribute, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I have to go here actually. Alright, so what we get is y squared plus 5y plus 6. And then remember, that whole thing is minus. So it's really going to make this one negative. It's going to change this and make this negative. It's going to change the next one, make that negative. Did you see what happened there? So now I'm going to make this a positive. Once I take the negative and distribute it, and then I'm left with a y plus 1. All over y plus 1 times y, oh gosh, y plus 1 times y plus 2 times y minus 2. Okay. I'll erase this other one. This is a mess. So you've got the 3 factors. Alright, now I have to combine my like terms. So what I get is, I'm going to go over here. Let's make my answer be in a completely different color. How about white? I'm going to get minus 5y, and y is 4y. Okay? I'm going to have a positive 1 and a negative minus 5y, and positive y is a negative 4y. I'm going to have a positive 1 and a negative 6. That makes negative 5. And then I have a y squared all over y plus 1 times y plus 2 times y minus 2. And that should be it. Oh, I forgot that this was a negative right here, so I'm left with that negative y squared minus 4y minus 5 all over, and so here is your answer. Sorry, I ran out of room there on the bottom. All right, I'm going to move on. Whoops. Let's come back. The next few should move a little bit quicker. We have 3. Okay, we have 3. This is number 8. 3 over x minus 1 plus 4 over x. To simplify, remember, I'm going to have to multiply both sides. This side I'm going to have to multiply by, let me switch that color. Let's make it, have it a little red, white, and blue. I'm going to multiply by x minus 1 over x minus 1. This one, the common denominator, what I'm missing is just an x over an x. So I'm left with 3x plus 4 times x minus 1 all over x times x minus 1. I'm going to simplify, if we do some blue, and what I end up with is 3x plus 4x minus 4 all over x times x minus 1. Keep simplifying. What I get is 7x minus 4 all over x times x minus 1. And that's number 8. Pause it and write the notes if you need to. All right, next one. We have 2 minus t. This is number 7. Okay. 2 minus t over t squared plus 1. And that's a plus. No, it's a minus. Minus t minus 4 all over t squared plus 1. Now remember, this one's a common denominator, so all I'm really having to do is distribute that negative there. Okay, so I get my 2 minus t plus 4 all over t squared plus 1. So I get negative t and negative t, make negative 2t. Switch. Negative 2t and I get positive 6 all over t squared plus 1. Now I can simplify that a little bit more. So that would be, I can divide out a negative 2, and then I'm left with t plus minus 3. I divide the t, let me just divide out a 2. Doesn't matter, you could have divided out a, okay, so I'm going to divide out a 2. And what I'm left with is 3 minus t. All I did was switch my terms around. I'm left with a negative t and a positive 3, but I wrote the positive first. All over t squared plus 1. Now I want to factor because I want to just do that just to make sure there's nothing else I can cancel out. And so here is my final answer. Okay, that's number 7. Now, number 6. Again, common denominators. This is number 6. Okay, we have x minus 4, x squared minus 4 plus 4 over x squared minus 4. Really, we're just combining like the numerators. X minus 4 plus 4 all over x squared minus 4. I'm going to break that down, x squared minus 4. That's x plus 4 times x minus 4. And what I'm left with in the numerator is x all over x plus 4 times x minus 4. Final answer, simplified. Ivan, stop. It's my dog. All right. Next, we have number 5. So, I'm doing 4x minus x squared minus x squared all over 2x plus 3 divided by 16x squared minus 4x to the third and dividing by 8x plus 12. All right. Remember, I multiply by the reciprocal, so the first fraction stays the same. 4x minus x squared all over 2x plus 3 multiplied by 8x plus 12 all over 16x squared minus 4x to the third. All right, here we go. Let's factor the numerator, and I'm going to take out an x, and what I'm left with is 4 minus x all over 2x plus 3 times, factor out a 4, I'm left with 2x plus 3. In the denominator, I can divide out a 4x squared. What I'm left with is a 4 minus x. Okay, so now I'm going to start doing my cross canceling. Cancel. Let's do a different color. Cancel, 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 cancel. I can take one x out. I'm left with an x. I can take a 4 out and a 4 out. So is there anything left in the numerator? Only a 1. And in the denominator, I'm left with an x. So your final answer is 1 over x. Almost done. If we don't finish this, watch the rest at home. Number 3, I have, nope, number 4. And we have 1 minus x squared over 18 times 6 over 1 times x. Sorry, 1 plus x. Okay. Factor it out. And what you have is, we need to factor everything. 1 plus x, 1 minus x, all over 18 times 6 over 1 plus x. I can cancel out, cancel, 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 and I'm left with a 3. So in the numerator, I'm left with 1 minus x all over 3. All right, number 3. Number 3. 2x squared plus 3xy plus y squared all over 3x plus 3y. Step 1, factor. Okay. In the numerator, because it's kind of funky, I'm going to say what multiplies to the 2 and adds to 3. How about a 2 and a 1? So my numerator, what I'm left with, I've got y, and y makes my y squared. Okay, the other 2 is going to be my, remember I've got to have an x and an x to get just that x squared. But the coefficients here are going to go with the x because it has a coefficient. So I'm going to place my 1x and my 2, and it's both plus and plus because both signs are positive. All over 3 I can factor out, and I'm left with x plus y. All right, so it's time to cancel out. You can divide in x plus y. So what I am left with is 2x plus y all over 3. Simplified answer. Didn't mean to do that. Write the notes if you need them. Moving on to number 2. Okay, 10y y squared plus 5y all over 25 y squared plus 10y. The directions are simplify. So step 1, I factor. I can divide out of 5y. What's left is 2y plus 1 all over. I can divide out of 5y. What's left is 5y plus 2. Okay, 5y plus 2. Now, cancels out, so what's left is 2y plus 1 over 5y plus 2. Okay, moving on. And the last problem, which is 3y plus 12 all over 6. So to factor out, what we need to do, just factor the numerator. I'm going to divide a 3 out, and I'm left with y plus 4 all over 6. What I can simplify, divide out, is a common factor of 3, left with a 2 here. So my final answer is y plus 4 all over 2. And that's the Chapter 10 review. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I can be around on Thursday afternoon. I'll try and be by email. And otherwise, good luck tomorrow. Keep practicing the problems, and each time you get better at it. Have a great day.